Hello, darlings. You've all heard of Marilyn Monroe.
Welcome back, darlings. I'm Cognac Wellerlane, TV host, entertainment journalist Cognac Wellerlane. And in just a moment, we are going to see a Zoom interview with a fabulous photographer. Her name is Holly Gordon. Keep watching, darlings. More coming up. Welcome back, darlings. I'm TV host, entertainment journalist Cognac Wellerlane, and I am here doing a Zoom meeting with a fabulous photographer. Her name is Holly Gordon. Holly, welcome to Cognac's Corner TV show.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, Holly, I like what you have in the background. That's one of your, explain to us about what we're seeing behind you.
Well, this is the Dove Tour Cottage that is on Center Shore Road in Centerport. And several years ago, 2014 to be exact, when I started this wonderful creative journey with a Northport painter, Ward Hooper, he started taking me to all of these locations on the North Shore that were creative inspiration points for him when he painted many years earlier. And when we discovered that he and I had been living separate parallel lives for decades, and our artwork was so similar, even though we had no knowledge of each other, no connection, nothing. There were just so many similarities in what he did with painting and what I did with my camera. That was the original question.
Right.
And brevity isn't my strong suit, but that's why we're a book. So he's taking me to all of these places, and my photography is just exploding into such unbelievable creativity that a colleague said, why don't you see how what you and Ward are doing is connecting to the history of art on Long Island? And I immediately thought of Arthur Dove and Helen Tour, who were a duo who worked 75 years before us. And Ward said, well, I could take you to their cottage. And so he did. And I photographed it, and he photographed it, and we each created our own interpretation of what we saw. So this is my creation of the historic Dove Tour Cottage.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, Holly, I want to ask you some important questions that pertain to you as a photographer. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your childhood, where you lived, and how you started in the craft of photography.
It's kind of crazy because, how to explain it? I was born with a camera around my neck.
That's
with
hilarious.
Canvases and art history books tucked under my arms, paintbrushes and paints clutched in my hands, and it was a very difficult labor for my mother. My dad would develop film, Kodak film, in our apartment when I was a baby. In fact, wait a second, I've got to get this out. He took pictures of me with this Brownie reflex camera. And when I was 5 years old, he put it around my neck, and he showed me how to look into the viewfinder. It's old. It has arthritis.
Oh.
Okay, but anyway, he told me to look into the viewfinder and hold my breath when I snapped the shutter. And from the age
Why
of,
hold your breath? Why hold your breath?
so the camera wouldn't move.
Ah,
So the camera wouldn't move. You know, back in those days, we didn't have stable image stabilization.
yeah.
I mean, we had film. It was B126. It was just so exciting to open up the back of the camera and roll out my 12 frames. And I just started documenting everything that I saw. And I would say to myself, I'm going to remember it all. I'm going to remember it all. I'm going to remember it all. So from a very early age, I photographed, but my whole history is art. And I've painted, I've welded, I've woven, I've created jewelry, I've done pottery. This is just part of me. And I became an art teacher. And even in teaching art, whatever I was involved in seeing at museums and galleries would somehow be incorporated into my programs. And I did syllabus writing for the New York State Education Department. Art has just always been in my DNA. And I painted a lot. I did my master's at NYU. In 1993, my husband, who unfortunately passed away in 1996, but in 1993, my husband and I took a pivotal photography course in Maine Photography Workshop. And Richard Brown, the famous photographer for Vermont, Country Living magazine, and other things, he had said to me that if I was serious about my photography,
Right.
I should stop painting.
Really?
Yes. He said, creativity, now, of course, this was his opinion, but
Right.
he said, creativity is finite. And if you are serious about your photography, devote yourself completely to your photography. So I put my paints away. Now, this was in 1993. I mean, my photography was always impressionistic because it was how I viewed the world. But when Ward and I got together, his painting and our conversations about how he looked at a location and was inspired by it, and what he sketched out, and what he removed, and what he added, and how he changed colors. And then he would put his sketch on watercolor paper and then build up washes and layers. As he was telling me this, I was just laughing because that was what I was doing with my photography. I was really taking my original photographic image in 2014 and using it as a base layer and then applying layers and layers and layers over it to build up my ultimate photographic image, which is what this Dove Tor Cottage is.
I see. It's beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Now, another question I wanted to ask you is, we had the challenges of not being able to earn enough money while being by being a photographer. Is it easy to be a photographer here in the United States? And what kind of obstacles do you run into?
Well, first of all, I'm an artist. So my tool is photography. There's a big difference between artists who create because something moves them
Right.
to create it.
Inspires them.
Yes. And when we do this, we have no security, we have no knowledge that somebody beyond us is going to want to purchase it or use it. You know, we are doing it because it means something to us. That's very different from illustrators and commercial artists who know that they're going to have a paycheck when they deliver whatever
Or
it
if they're
is.
being commissioned to paint a portrait or paint something.
There
Commissioned.
could be
Yes.
commissions. And there have been a few occasions where I have actually been hired to do a project for somebody, and I've done it, and I have had some commissions. But the crazy thing is, and this is me, I was an art teacher for 20 years. In many respects, even though I would say I close the door and in my world, in my classroom, I'll do my thing. When I graduated from teaching, I don't like to say I retired, because what I'm doing and what my plans were definitely not retirement or retiring in mind.
You can never retire, Don. When you are creative, an artist or photographer or a filmmaker, you basically can never retire.
It's just, and
yes.
And that's one of the things, that's one of the benefits of being an artist. But just to get back to it, in all of my teaching, I was taking the lead and following the instructions from my boss. Now that I was free, I didn't want to be anybody's boss. I just wanted to do my own thing.
So true.
And whether people responded to it or not, that was immaterial, because I needed to be true to my vision and my idea and my ideas. And so I have been in this living creative free fall. When Ward and I first got together in 2014, he would say to me, "Where are we going with this, Holly? What are we doing?" And I would say to him, I said, "Ward, we're enjoying the journey, the process. Let's not be blindsided or short-sighted and focus on the destination. Let's see where it leads
Where
us."
it takes us, right, absolutely. I wanted to also ask you, now you basically said it in a previous, when you were commenting before, but I think I should still ask you this. Do you think your talent for photography is something that people are born with, or do you think it's like something inherited? Were there artists in your family?
Yes. It's got to be in my DNA.
Yeah.
Because of relatives who are talented. My sister became a music teacher. You know, I became an art teacher. And I mean, our parents grew up Depression era. So it was very important to them, when they were encouraging us to go forth with something that would earn us a living. And since I was so caught up in art, it made sense for me to be an art teacher. Mm-hmm. And my sister didn't have a stomach to go professional, so she became a music teacher. And we're each talented in our own ways, but it's more than that. Richard Brown had said to me when we were having a conference, when I was taking this workshop with him, anybody can read a manual on how to do it, to create anything. It's the aesthetic is the hard part. It can't be taught. And when I look at what's out around me, I don't see nouns. I don't see trees, houses, roads, lampposts, bushes. I see relationships of color and shape, rhythm, light. Color and light are my muses. That's what grabs my attention. So do we have to be born with talent? I think what we need is to have our own particular vision, our own particular point of view that sets what each of us does apart from everybody else. And then, of course, if it gets picked up upon by other people in the world, that's a wonderful thing, and that's affirmation. I'd like to say I hide behind my camera in many respects, but it also connects me to people, and I think it's a combination.
It makes you social. It actually makes you social.
It can. So Alan Rokach was another photographer that I studied with for a while, who was very important to me. And here too, I will say, anyone who is interested in pursuing his or her own art should find the best people to instruct and mentor them.
Yeah, I was just about to say that you need a good mentor.
Absolutely, and a variety. But Alan had said to me in 1997, which was another pivotal moment. He said, "Holly, you definitely have your own point of view. Your work is different from the 10 other people who are taking this workshop. But if you want to make it as an artist, you must be able to articulate. You need to be able to talk clearly and intelligently to whoever wants to listen."
Do you feel, well, this is another question I wanted to ask you. What do you feel is the most challenging thing about photography? What you do? What are your biggest challenges when you are doing photography?
I feel like what I'm doing, which I call photoliminalism, which technology is changing photography as we know it.
Yes.
And what I'm doing is part of the change. But it's not the technology, the tools aren't controlling me. There are sometimes when I've talked to a group, people will say, "Oh, what app do you use?" I don't use any apps.
Well, that was another question I wanted to ask you too.
Wait, just wait, please just hold on.
But I wanted to ask you, do you Photoshop any of your images? Like
you see, this is where I get so angry.
Yeah.
I don't, okay, but it's only because, and I call it photoliminalism, because it's in transition. People don't know how to talk about it. We don't have the vocabulary for it. It's kind of like what Impressionism was in the 1860s. It was considered vulgar. Its society didn't know how to deal with it because it didn't look like what painting had been previously. And it took 20 years for it to be assimilated and for people to be able to talk about it in an intelligent manner. I want to humanize technology. When I use my stylus or my mouse, they're my pencils and my paintbrushes. They aren't controlling me. I'm controlling them. We don't say to painters, "Do you paintbrush your painting?" You know, it's like, I don't.
The kids today, this is, they're so technologically inclined that, this is, basically this is the way it is. But you're right, it has to come from within you, and you have to be the one that's controlling. You have to do it.
Yes. So my biggest frustration today, and I'm so glad that we're having this interview, is I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and people are posting all of these pictures, like push a button, push a button, push a button, blast, 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 blast. They may not even be seeing what they're snapping. The technology is making these decisions. And what I do is so complicated that, and it is photography too, but it's photography in a different level. So my biggest obstacle is there's all this stuff out there, and then there's this. And it's the same thing with our book, Parallel Perspectives. We are now in a time where there are going to be so many publications on COVID, on the social protest. And they're valid and they're important. But I would just hate to see that our book, which really is leading into the next chapter of our history on Long Island, to be lost or drowned in this overflowing.
In this chaos that we're dealing with right
Yes.
now. Yeah, I know what you mean. Listen, my passion in life is to do interviews and videos, and I'm getting people telling me, oh, don't send me this video. It's a terrible time. I don't want to see your video. I've actually had somebody tell me that. So I said to them, I said, should writers that write stop writing? Should artists that paint stop painting? Just because there's chaos in this world? No. If you don't want to look, don't look. But I have to do what I have to do. That's what I told the person. But listen, Holly, we're running out of time, so I have to get to the point. Now, my next question to you is that you sent me a whole beautiful photography, beautiful painting. We're going to see that now. I'm going to show a clip of that. I made a video of what you sent me, and we're going to see it right now. But before we see this video, my audience is going to see it in the edited version of after we do the interview. But I want you to explain to my audience what you sent me, because we're running out of time. We have like about another couple of minutes left, so I want you to tell us what you sent me.
I sent you all of the material that's going to be posted on parallelperspectivesbook.com website that is promoting our book. And I think I also sent you the link to Amazon where the book could be pre-ordered. It's due to be distributed in October, but my publisher said I'm going to get advance copies in the middle of June to go to our publicist, Carol Honig. So maybe, it's almost like this is Wards and My Baby, and Labor Day is going to be October 6th, 2020, but it might be an early arrival. So the date might come earlier. But the other thing that I just want to throw in, art is a wonderful mechanism, because even if people are writing or creating about their anger or their frustration or their misery, it's constructive. And if we had more art in the world, if we had more art in education, people would be able to funnel their anger, their fear, their frustration out in a creative means. And our book is full of this positivity. Ward had just lost his wife. He had been caught up with caring for her for years. It's when I came into his life, I was a breath of fresh air for him.
I see.
It's a very inspiring book.
That's what I want my audience to know, that it is a very inspiring book. And I also need for you to tell me now online where we can go to find more information about this book, the name and the website where we can learn, where we can attain it.
Well, there are a bunch. Okay, first of all, there's Brush brushlenseproject.com, which is the website that dealt with our early years. Now we have parallelperspectivesbook.com, which is
the name of the book.
The name of the book is Parallel Perspectives, the Brush Lens Collaboration by Holly Gordon and Ward Hooper. And not only does it parallel Ward's and my life, it parallels significantly to the early 20th century artists who lived and worked here, Arthur Dove and Helen Torr. It's kind of like a time traveler's tale. That's all true. So there's parallelperspectivesbook.com, hollygordonphotographer.com, and whenever I say .com, I say I'm anything but com.
Well, let's take a look at these pictures, this little video that I edited for you. Holly, thank you so much for talking to us here at Cognac's Corner. I adored talking to you. It was so exciting and so informative about the art, about the book. And just one more time, your website, darling. One more time, give us your website.
Well, hollygordonphotographer.com or parallelperspectivesbook.com.
Terrific. That's all we need.
Brushlenseproject.com.
That's all we need. Thank you, Holly, and thank you for talking to me right here at Cognac's Corner, and good luck with all your projects and all your photography. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mwah. Mwah.
And we'll be back, darlings, with more interviews. Keep watching Cognac's Corner. Big champagne kisses. Well, that concludes my show, darlings. I hope you enjoyed my Zoom interview with photographer Holly Gordon. Keep watching. More interviews, more Zoom interviews coming up. Pink champagne kisses.
Hello, darlings. You've all heard of Marilyn Monroe. Some of you know Bridget Bardot. Well, now it's time for the Cognac show. I said Cognac, ooh, ooh. I said Cognac, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm a bubbly blonde, fabulously dressed to impress. One of a kind girl. I was brought into this world wrapped up in pearls. I love to mingle, though my husband reminds me I'm not single. I meet and greet both the famous and the elite. I ride in limousines, drinking the finest champagne, wearing furs, dazzling diamond jewelry. A girl can't complain. I live the upscale life, dining in the finest restaurants, eating the best caviar for free. And no matter how much I enjoy cognac, ooh, ooh. I said cognac, ooh, ooh, ooh. It's been a Crybaby Productions, darlings.